Alright, so hello everybody. If you guys are watching this in video form, you guys can see this was analyzed and recorded live. So, if you guys are in the chat, you guys can say hello to the people watching the video. But yeah, hope you guys are all ready for the 3.5 live stream. Yeah, you guys can already see like the automations. Like you can kind of see like, as we predicted before, these, I'm assuming this is Xuanfang, right? The city of Xuanfang has a lot of this mechanical automated technology, but there's also a really Chinese aesthetic. I think we talked about this before, but this thing in the background, that's really based on like the sandstone pillars of like Zhangjiajie, which is a real place in Chinese, like China, obviously, right? So if you guys didn't know, we talked about this before, but Zhangjiajie, right? This is like basically the only place in China that has these kind of like sandstone pillars that were created through erosion. So I was kind of like, that's why I was kind of thinking that this was based in Hunan, because this is where like Hunan is the province in which this appears. But I don't know, we'll see. But there's a lot of kind of like this floating city amidst kind of like high peaks. By the looks of it as well, there's also like these kinds of houses and stuff among these mountains. That is true. Youhu. I think Youhu, was she? I swear there was someone from Chongzhou. I'm not sure who was from Chongzhou. I know Buling is from Mengzhou. I swear there was someone from Chongzhou, but I don't know who it is. And then of course Choyun is from Mingting, but he's been to Chongzhou before. Yep. Yeah, so he's part of the ISA, which is like basically like Mingting, right? But I think if you remember from Choyun's trailer, actually, we might actually just pull this up real quick. But if you guys remember from Choyun's trailer, he was actually traveling through Chongzhou, which is actually one of the cities that border Mingting with the capital, right? So kind of like over here. When he was like training the kid, this is like this is Chongzhou, right? And basically when they were traveling, they were actually traveling from Chongzhou to the border of Mingting. And so this bridge where they part is actually like, once they pass a mountain, they get to Mingting. So besides Chongzhou, Mingting, Jinzhou, and Mengzhou, we don't actually know, I think, any of the other regions within Huanglong at the moment. But that's that's the limit of our geographical knowledge so far. No, no. So Chongzhou was not the name of the noodles. It's actually it's actually the name of sort of like a place, because the reason why is because the word zhou in Chinese is always used to kind of like talk about sort of like a province or a city, right? So for example, let's just say, oh, where am I from? So where am I from in China, right? So like Zhou in this case would be like, it means city, right? So like this is where I'm from in China, and it's kind of like the kind of like, how do I say it? It's one level down from a province. So usually it's what you use to describe a city in Chinese. The noodles that you're probably thinking of is from Chongqing. The reason why everyone thinks about Chongqing noodles is because these are probably like one of the most famous noodles in China, like kind of like the spicy noodles. But yeah, that's kind of like probably where you get the impression from. 而黄龙历史渊源，文明厚重。One capital and 6 cities, and as we know, they have 7 sentinels. And each of these 7 sentinels of Huanglong are based on, as we talked about before, so it's based on kind of like the 7 mansions. So all of like the Huanglong sentinels, I think, in case you don't know already, they're all based on this, right? So we have already Zhao, or which is like Jiwei, right? And then we have Fang, which is confirmed to be the solar heir. And then we also have Xin, which is the current sentinel of Mengzhou. So yeah, that's kind of like, if in case you guys didn't know, just adds up. So yeah, well, of course it's really interesting because, as we know, Huanglong's really interesting. It's the only country we know so far that has multiple sentinels. I had a kind of theory that Ashinohara might have had two sentinels, but I don't think that's confirmed as of yet. Yeah. So one of the things as well within Jinzhou's lore, if you guys didn't know, is that Jinzhou is the newest city that was added to Huanglong. So what they're saying here, which is really interesting, is that it seems that the other sentinels, like for example Xin, could foresee that Jue would arrive, which is really interesting because it seems they have some sort of telepathic link with each other. And this, so Xin the Moon, we know it's Xin the Moon Fox because it has to be the Moon Fox, right? If you guys didn't know already, basically with kind of like the moon fox, the fox of kind of like the heart in the Azure Dragon, it has to be a moon fox, because that's just literally, as we said before, it's just the constellations of the Azure Dragon, right? So that's how it works. With both sentinels, the Court of Savante. Oh, so this was this is the event, the battle that was talked about within Jinzou's map lore, is that Jue and Xin, as well as the Court of Savante, which is really interesting, stopped the attack. I actually did not know that. So this is like basically that confirms that the Court of Savante was involved with this defensive battle. And you can see this architecture as well, like that's the sandstone pillars we talked about in the background. But one thing you're kind of seeing is that a lot of this architecture is really similar to Jinzhou in a way, but it has a lot more different greenery and nature involved. There's a lot of emphasis, I'll just go back actually. There's a lot of emphasis on rockery and water and gardens, which is something it's something that you see which is much more reminiscent of southern China than the north. Because I think I talked about this in one of my videos before, but northern China's cold, guys. So there's not a lot of gardens like this because you can't really maintain a garden. But in southern China, you see in a lot of like the provinces, you see a lot of this kind of design. There's like these waterways, there's rockery, there's kind of like all these like nature and trees and stuff because the conditions are like hotter and like much more accommodating for this kind of architecture and design. Mountains and rivers exist alongside technology. You know what I talked about? I actually talked about this before. Give me a second, guys. So like this video, I think I did talk about this, but there is this philosophy, right? Within what was it? It was like kind of like a certain like the Shang style, the Shang style of Hunan, right? Because a lot of the mountainous areas in China have like this philosophy where you blend mountain and river into your construction, right? Instead of kind of like demolishing nature, you build your architecture into nature. And that's actually not just, for example, like this architectural thing. It's actually pretty important, for example, like feng shui, right? So if you see, for example, you guys know like feng shui, right? What do you guys think feng shui means? It literally means wind and water, okay? So it's actually like a pretty big consideration in design. So whenever there's like natural, like kind of like let's just say, oh, let's bring the chat back up. Whenever there's kind of like this consideration of mountains and rivers, it's always usually built into nature. And that's why kind of like I feel like this existing alongside technology vibe is such a big thing for Xuanfang and Mengzhou, because it's actually just a core tenet of Chinese architecture in general. But we can see, oh, this city looks really good. So it's literally a floating city. Considering as well that they said before that the court of Savante participated in the defense of this mountain pass alongside with Jinzhou, I'm honestly thinking now that the Court of Savante at least helped Xin create this technology like this. That's Rover. But it looks really good so far. Okay, so we're seeing a lot of this architecture. This is definitely different from Jinzhou, but you can already see a lot of this architecture is similar in some capacity. Like a lot of nature is flowing into design. It's very similar to, like, as I said before, this is very inspired by Southern Chinese architecture. Okay, and I think that's a jade pendant. Okay. Yeah, this is I can recognize a lot of things here. Okay, so that's automata mechanics. There's a lot of like this jade coloring, which doesn't surprise me. It's a very fortuitous color within Chinese culture. Okay, so a lot of like bamboo, a lot of kind of like rockery, and that's sweet sweet. We know that's sweet sweet. And this is Jingran. So I can't actually. I kind of want to translate what that text is, but I think it may just be gibberish. We'll see. We'll see. But he carries a lantern. Okay. And I think one thing that someone said is that Jingran actually carries something called a Luoyang shovel, right? And this is a shovel that is kind of like you dig vertically, and it's specifically designed for tomb raiding, actually. So if, for example, there are like Court of Cervantes ruins, like what Lux told us, then it seems that Luoyang, Jingran might be a bit of a tomb raider. And this is Qingshao. Okay, so the other theory I had with like Qingshao, I think we talked about this before, is that this is someone that has actually appeared within Buling's story, right? Especially because in Buling's story, actually, hold on, let me see if I can just get it up real quick. In Buling's story, there's someone that actually shows up playing a guqin, like a guqin, right? So a white robed woman sat nearby, guqin in her arms. If you guys don't know what a guqin is, it's kind of like the instrument she was literally just playing, right? So it's like this. So I think it's basically confirmed that Qingshao was the person within Buling's story, right? This sort of person who was kind of like, because in this story she was competing with Jianxin in a peak in Xuanfang, so it kind of like makes sense, right? It's basically confirmed that she's a person in Buling's story. And she summons celestial swords. Okay, so this is Yang. I'm assuming she overclocks here. Let's just shut up for a moment. So this is kind of, so she's affected by her memories, I'm assuming. Because if you guys didn't know, sorry, I keep on getting sidetracked, but when she was young, I think when she was like 14, Yang was actually attacked. Her caravan was attacked, and she was like basically, I think she lost her parents, right? Ruthless attack from exiles who were traveling on a family's caravan, forced to fend for herself. So basically, she was attacked when she was young, right? And I think that this is a bit of a reference to her past. So this is how like she kind of like, okay. I think, there's so much stuff to translate. I don't know if you can translate that, but these are like the paper lanterns. And the final character, of course. I think everyone's been waiting for this character, right, guys? Yeah, okay. Okay, yeah, everyone was waiting for that, I think. Yeah, I don't know what else to say at the moment, but for Shining Light the Moonrise, we all know that Sin is the moon fox, so this all makes a lot of sense. And look, okay, I'll talk about it later because there might be information that is revealed later. I do have some theories on who Sin is, but we'll talk about that later. It does look like the mech abomination, so I'm assuming that maybe like all of these like structures get corrupted by some sort of Frenodian. We have like, the thing is that trailer did not answer a lot of our questions. Like we don't know how Yang changes forms, and we don't know what evil force or Frenodian is affecting Mengzhou yet.
而且啊，我发现这里的激光科技
Colorful technologies hidden among Garden's mountains. Yep.
非常奇妙。
And I feel like that's going to be the theme of Xuanfang as well as Mengzhou, is kind of like this blend of technology with nature, right? Mountains and rivers. As I said before, it's a really big philosophy, not just within kind of like the Chinese architecture, but also culture, to build and live alongside mountains and rivers, right? there's this kind of like I don't know if I can translate this saying very well, but within, for example, like our culture, you live and you eat next to and with where you live, right? So for example, if you live on a mountain, you live and coexist with the mountain. If you live next to the coast, you coexist and live with the ocean, right? If you live in the plains, you do the same thing there. So this coexistence with environment is a really big part of the culture and especially the architecture, as you can see here, which is why I feel like the whole theme is going to be kind of based around that as just a general idea.
是的，我们希望新版本能给玩家带来全新的
Fresh audiovisual experience, okay, that's good.
这种黄龙特有的东方
Eastern inspired aesthetics. Yeah. It's after kind of like having to deconstruct a lot of European symbolism with Renacita and Lahairoi, I think I can take a bit of a break and go into a very Chinese time of my life temporarily. One links. Oh, okay. So I know this is definitely translated from Chinese into English, but wind before the storm, we all know that Yang has to do with wind, right? And so I feel like this first version is going to be more focused on Yang, right? I don't actually think that you are going to find Yang in the first story. You might find her in the second story, or maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's just a segue quest after you find Yang or something. But you guys know Yang, her like second name is Shuangling, and Shuangling is a reference to like it's really hard to translate, but let's just say it means long feather, right? Like long feather.
森林正是某个时间节点上
Oh, interesting.
部分共鸣者
Oh, so you switch perspectives. Okay. I think they did this a little bit in the Frolova story already, but I think they're making this kind of like a more fundamental mechanic. Okay.
或是在特定
I'm not entirely opposed to this because like it does make main story quests a little bit interesting. It's kind of like, for example, if you guys remember, like there's some main story quests like Chacona's quest, which have like specific mechanics tied to them. As long as they make them permanent, like I'm honestly not opposed to like this kind of stuff.
节点以不同视角推动剧情，
And also one thing I want to talk about as well
并且
is that you really see it very clearly in this shot, but these are definitely just the Azure Wing magpies that we talked about before, right? So as we talked about before, like I can already like sniff Yang's symbolism from a mile away, okay? We talked about this already. It's based on the Azure Wing magpie. And these were the animals. If you guys were like kind of like not here from the beginning of the stream, these are the animals that are the envoys of a mother goddess in Chinese culture called Xuanfang, right? The Queen Mother of the West. So yeah.
任务后，漂泊者即可获得科考摩托车匠。
So a lot of like this ooh, you know what this reminds me of? So I think earlier in the video I talked about I'm like from a specific city in China, right? And there's like actually an architecture kind of like style. I don't know what it's specifically called. There's like this kind of like it's kind of like this circular house that how do I say this? It's like this circular house. I mean, look, it's a lot of kind of like the similar architecture, but there's like this what is it called? What is it called? Oh, it's called Tulo, right? It's like this kind of like house where you would build like this circular kind of like housing unit, right, where multiple families would live, and it would look like this. Kind of like multiple levels of kind of like balconies stretch upon each other with multiple households. And that kind of reminds me of like the way they designed a lot of these like these kind of like balconies and roofings, like multi levels. But we've already talked about already. A lot of the greenery, rockery, and stuff like that is very reminiscent of Southern Chinese architecture, which is where I'm from. A lot of like these kind of like doorways as well. Yeah, I think this establishing shot really puts into perspective the idea of like this mountain river architecture style. like building into the environment. Doesn't rely on human labor but on auto puppets. Okay. So I was actually this actually answers one of the questions I had, was that what do the automata mechanics play into this? Because they seem very essential for the function of the city, and now we know that they are basically kind of like the labor force. That makes sense. Okay. So because I think in the original description, it just said as Sin directed the creations of these, but it looks like Sin directly made them. That's actually pretty big.
200年来，
Structure periodically shifts.
释出部分
TDs are released. Why?
启动及回
Okay, so wait. Also, the other thing is that if TDs are released, that implies that there's a containment facility for them, right? So if you're releasing TDs, you have to contain them. And there is a character that we have already been kind of like eyeing in regards to containment, right? Being Swarming, right? A lot of kind of like the lock motifs and stuff like that. And she, her whole bloody kind of like name literally means sealing away the darkness or some shit, right? So over 2 centuries, so I'm assuming maybe like they have a prison and they have to empty out the prisoners or something, because I did kind of actually theorize that they have like some sort of TD prison.
回换房
I can already see there's going to be tons and tons of like really nice cinematics, because dude, there was like that one scene from like when, you know, like when Choyun fights Geshu Lin, like that setting was bomb. Okay, like this setting was fucking bomb, guys. But you don't have a place in Jinzhou that actually looks like this. Like that actually looks like this, right? But it looks like with Xuanfang, we are finally getting a place that actually feels like China, right? And I think that's kind of like Kuro's intention in like to some capacity.
四季的变化
Okay. But a lot of the echoes and enemies so far seem to be like the automata mechanic kind of like buildings and stuff. So it seems like there is some kind of forces corrupting them. But again, like we still don't know what that is, which is really weird. Like we don't know what Frenodian or forces like kind of corrupting these buildings and stuff to
为
attack
这一
you.
段被岁月尘封的百
So I guess they're kind of like gatekeeping that still.
或者亲自来揭开。
You know what this kind of
或
feels?
者会在任务中
What?
景相逢，与这位
Huh? No way. Dungeon finally appears in the story. Dude,
拔刀相助，用自己的方式成了
guys, if you guys didn't know, by the way, dude, if you guys didn't know, Dungeon has never appeared in the story. Never. She hasn't even appeared in Jinzhou, but she finally appears here? So was she basically kind of like native to, like, no, I don't think she was made native to Mengzhou, right? Because I'm pretty sure Dungeon is a wanderer. So I'm pretty sure she just happened to meet you. But like, it's so cool that like you finally actually meet her, right? So she's been in Jinzhou for a while. You just never meet her in the story, but you finally meet her within Mengzhou by the looks of it. And it's actually crazy because like you've never seen Dungeon in the story before. So no, like Kaoshiro is different because you have met Kaoshiro in Jinzhou and later in Rinascita when she gets hired, but you've never, ever met Dungeon in the story. Never. She's never appeared. So this is like okay, it's not just that Dungeon's potentially getting story time. This is the first time she's literally being in the story. Like she's never been in the story before, guys. I don't think that like that realization is setting in at the moment yet. So especially since this is an exploration quest, it may mean that we finally get to see where Dungeon appears in the story and you finally get to meet her because you've never met her before. So interesting. Okay.
一直都对他
The Ministry of War has always kept a close eye on her.
留意
That's
流
us.
放者的手段，大家也都清楚。
Yes, Dungeon hates exiles. If you guys didn't know that from a story, Dungeon hates exiles. She despises them, right? So, yeah, you know, like, ooh, we finally get to see her in the story. That's crazy.
那毫不留情的性决
This is an actual exploration quest. Is this like a character story quest? Like a character, like, it says it's an exploration quest, but this may actually be like a full-on character story. Because that's what it feels like to me.
也请感谢
Yeah, like, look, it even says, enjoy some tea. Your favorite Long Whispers crisp. It literally says in her story, right? This is her favorite food. The Long Whispers crisp is literally her favorite food, guys. Like, that's crazy. That's crazy, guys. This is actually crazy. That is crazy.
意象
Okay.
呈现右
So I think we talked about this already, but a lot of the echoes are basically just based on the auto puppets, right? So it's the actual name we know now is called the auto puppets. But I'm just still confused on why they got corrupted, right? Because assuming that all of these auto puppets were created by Sin, the Sentinel, there is some kind of probably like possibly Frenoding at work that corrupts them. Because like, how else could you like hack the creations that were made by a Sentinel? I don't even know.
却因为
The Xuanling bird. Okay, so it's literally just called a Xuanling bird, but if you guys don't know, Xuanling just means long feather. It's kind of like long feather in Chinese, azure long feather, right? So azure long feather, basically is just like a reference to the azure winged magpie.
它通体湛蓝，羽色玄黑，可以辨识感情。
So, okay, sense emotions carry unfortunately Xuanling bird vanished. So she is like kind of like a manifestation of that? Okay.
良渊用来
Oh, you know what that reminds me of?
们为
To honor their memory, cross and Xuanfang, craft the rafter kite. You know what that reminds me of? It reminds me of like the Exoswarm in Lahairoi, because the Exoswarm in sometimes have actually replaced extinct animals. Like for example, what is it? Like what's like the name of the raptor bird that like everyone hates in like Tower of Adversity? Like that raptor bird, I'm pretty sure it's extinct, right? And the only form it now takes is the exoswarm. So it's kind of similar to that.
造出了良渊，用来
Serve as a messenger for letters. And what did we talk about with, for example, the azure winged magpie? It is the emissary bird of Xuanwu, right? That sends letters and messages for the queen goddess of the west. Boom, symbolism already connected. But we have seen, for example, some like inspirations. I feel like she has like this she definitely does a lot of like the water sleeve dance. Oh, what is it called? It's like this water sleeve dance within kind of like Chinese opera, but she also has like this she has like the kind of like flying, like kind of like some of the moves of the flying aspara within, for example, what is it? Like it was like the cave paintings in Gansu. There's like this kind of like cave paintings where there's a lot of like the moves that she performs is similar to cave paintings found in some Chinese provinces as well. So yeah. I'm pretty sure, like, okay, so I was actually hypothesizing before that Yang's bird was a crane, but I actually think that based on this weapon, this is definitely a crane, guys. This is definitely a crane. First Light's Herald. If you guys didn't know, there's actually multiple types of cranes in Chinese culture. And the thing with like Chinese cranes is that they are all of like different colors and they evolve as they grow older, right? So I think that possibly like Sui Sui here, her crane is either yellow or blue, right? But regardless of that, the general kind of like symbolism of cranes being kind of like wise, kind of like for children's animals still stays the same. Because if you guys didn't know, I did talk about this. The crane is the second most powerful bird in Chinese culture under the Feng Huang. So yeah, or the Chinese phoenix.
将同步上线。
So that's definitely like, guys, that's definitely a crane, bro. Like, okay, that kind of clears my questions as to what Sui Sui's potential symbolisms may be, because Yang Yang doesn't have a crane, but Sui Sui definitely seems to have a crane, which is really interesting. Really interesting.
没错，
And we also, oh, okay, Electro Rover is pretty important.
漂泊者就能获得新的共鸣属性。
Power of Electro.
这是漂泊者拥有的第4种共鸣属性，
Fourth unlockable
在战斗
attribute.
上也会带来和之前完全不同的
Entirely
体
new
验。
combat style.
法力属性的漂
Ooh.
泊者能够使用电
Okay, so it applies electro flares. Is that like kind of like,
机关手环
is it gonna be like similar like a support?
多种形态的变形，
Because we don't have an electro flare character yet.
来抵御利剑劈斩，
Shield, sharp blade, cross. Okay, so it has 3 weapons in one,
一次出手
which kind of makes sense because it's like the automata mechanics, right?
都带着迅猛凌厉的攻势，灵活切换不同的
So that looks really
在攻
cool.
击蓄力状态下，
That looks
机
really
关
cool.
手环还可变形为
Wait, it actually has like a shield parry mechanic as well.
攻击的瞬
It
间，
wait, Rover gains immunity when they have the shield up is pretty big,
和短暂停顿，
especially for some enemies.
试试发动反击。伴随着漂泊者的攻击，运送敌人。漂泊者会累积
Forte Gorge energy.
漂泊者导电的
OK
技能会携着雷光冲向敌人，此时可进行派生攻击。漂泊者会在成功后
Okay.
手握雷电打向地面，激光活动的纹路在脚下铺展。整片地面
Oh.
当特殊能量充满后，可点按释放强化共鸣技能，插座于战场之中聚集怪物，此后切换队友，队友将会获得一定时间的攻击加成。这些能量为己所
Consume the Forte
用
Gorge.
共鸣技能，爆发雷电能量进入过载状态。
Overload
漂
state.
泊者的共鸣技能将替换为融合了眼
Wait, so it has two kind of states?
攻击模组。
Wait. Combines the powers of Spectro, Havoc, and Arrow. Am I reading that right? Holy shit. What the fuck? We already had 3 weapon forms, and now we have 3 elements in one? The fuck? Wait, can I see this in action? Wait, that was the Arrow. That's like Arrow Rover's attack.
不同的派生攻击，漂泊者到
Oh, and wait, and that was Spectro Rover's like
在地面，在空中进行不同的
that was just Arrow Rover's
或者到
and that was Havoc Rover's.
Oh.
That is crazy.
导电的共鸣解
That's crazy. That's
会
crazy.
天地间的雷电
Summons the lightnings of heaven and earth. If you guys don't know what that means, lightning of heaven and earth. Lightning is a really powerful force within Chinese culture because it's seen that lightning is something that comes down from heaven and provides like this way to banish and exorcise demons, which is something that you saw quite a lot in Buling's character, but you're gonna see that quite a lot here as well, I'm assuming.
紫光对灵神奔涌而下，
Yeah. So like, see how they kind of like call down lightning from the sky, right? Like in that shot,
对灵神奔涌
they call down lightning from the sky. That is a very if you guys didn't know, that's actually very China coded.
而下，会一成巨大的
Because you call down lightning from heaven, like the gods provide you lightning that mortals can use to exorcise like demons or something.
月亮角色突破。
Guys, I'm not a new player, right? But I have heard a lot of new players complaining that they can't get fucking flowers. And if this is what I think it is, this is a really massive QOL change for new players. Because there's 2 things, if you guys didn't know, like I'm assuming a lot of you guys are like kind of like older players. If you guys didn't know, there's 2 things that new players can't really get right now. The first one is boss materials. The second is fucking flowers. They can't get flowers because you get flower boxes as part of like some of your new like new player startup stuff, but this is huge. Especially because if you're a new player and you just pull like Aimif for some shit and you can't level her up because of flowers, this might be like literally the difference between you being able to build a character or not. Like this is massive. Like this is actually massive for new players. That's actually like because this was like one of the biggest complaints for like the longest time. And I'm like honest, even if I'm not a new player, it's really good to see that Kuro is addressing this, because there's definitely been an influx of new players from, for example, the Cyberpunk collab. When they see this, like, and yeah, like, also as well, like, this is just good for, like, old players in general, because I think they said you can just buy this from the shop, like Oscillated Coral Store, like, which is not the best, but it's better than nothing, right? Like, it's literally better than nothing. It's not the best to get from the Coral Shop, but it's better than nothing. And, like, it's good for everybody, but especially for new players, it's a really good feature. It's like, I wouldn't say it's perfect, but it's definitely an upgrade from nothing. I like
更
it.
新后，万物图鉴内的千般
Oh, they changed the icon.
现在展示的就
Oh,
是
that's actually like really cool.
我们
That's
的新
actually
主
really
人
cool. Okay. It actually changed the icon of the game. That's crazy. That's actually kind of crazy. But it makes a lot of sense because technically, like, it is a new icon. It is a new icon.
从最初的泱泱到如今的泱泱玄灵，
So as Yang Yang has embraced growth, the game is also growing. That's a pretty parallel, nice message.
它迎来了属于自己。
零图标。我们也希望这
Will remain.
更新后上线并持续至版本结束。
Oh, it only stays for the duration of the version. Oh, okay, so it's temporary, but I think it's still it's a pretty cool
我
feature.
们也同时
This is a lost code. And that should actually really just bring us to the end of the stream and all the important things we need to talk about. So it has been basically quite a long time, like like I think the video is like 1.5 hours at this point. So if you guys are watching after the stream for the video, hope you guys have a great rest of the day, and I'll see you guys next video.